So you did bring up another thing that you wanted to talk about, and it seems like there's a little bit of craziness in Chicago related to the Bears and the White Sox. One thing I will say is before we started this recording, the White Sox did fire longtime executive Kenny Williams, and they got rid of their GM. So it seems as if they're trying to clean house because they had a really exciting young team, not what, 2 seasons ago, and now they're in no place to be winning and they don't seem to have any type of direction. But you also wanted to talk about the Bears and their stadium relocation because that has been kind of a little bit of news over the last couple of years as to what they're going to do. Chicago is an interesting city to me when it comes to sports topics.
No, it absolutely is. And on the, so obviously on the side of the White Sox, yeah, definitely crazy. And, there's talks about them wanting to possibly move and not, I've heard discussions of maybe move out to the suburbs somewhere, which is what the Bears are talking about, or possibly a move to another city like Nashville or somewhere like that. Like, I just can't imagine a world, and maybe this is how, and I'm not a White Sox fan, I'm a Cubs fan, but, I live here. I just live a couple hours from Chicago. I've been to White Sox games, know plenty of White Sox fans. I can't imagine a world where the White Sox aren't on the south side of Chicago. And it's just it's like ingrained in their DNA. And again, maybe this is how Oakland A's fans feel. I kind of, poked fun at them, maybe considered them unworthy of keeping a team because of their lack of attendance and stuff like that. And maybe that's what's plaguing the White Sox, but I feel like they have a very loyal fan base. And I don't know if I don't know. I have to dig more into it. I know some of this stuff is just surface level, and obviously there's some other things going on there. They haven't been very good on the field, and I didn't understand why they brought Tony La Russa in. Which, speaking of him, I just saw a picture today of him that was taken recently. It looks like the freaking crypt keeper. I mean, it's unreal. And hey, he had a great career. He was a great manager, but the fact that they dusted his ass off for a couple of years was just mind-boggling to me. You just think of some of the managers that they've run through there. Before Ozzie Guillen was crazy, like coked out of his mind most of the time, and then you have old Tony La Russa and whoever else in between. It's just been fascinating, and I think it's more exciting. I mean, based in Chicago, like for me in Central Illinois, it's all about Cubs Cardinals. Like almost everyone's, it's a Cubs fan or Cardinals fan, but in the city of Chicago, folks that live there, they care more about Cubs Sox than they do Cubs Cardinals. I mean, it's definitely the crosstown uh, the rivalry and North Side, South Side. And there's just a specific, like, if I saw someone that was from Chicago, just like, and I was around them for 30 seconds, and you had to say, tell me if they're a Sox fan or a Cubs fan. I bet you that like 80% accuracy, I could tell you just based off their demeanor.
Got a volatile question for you off of this. Are we coming to a place in sports, maybe specifically in baseball, but I think it applies across the board? Are we maybe getting to a place where these cities with two professional teams in the same league are going to become fewer and far between? I think New York gets probably to keep them because New York fans are very, very loyal, and I don't see those franchises losing money. But for the White Sox, who have been around for over 100 years, and to have the kind of history that they have to consider leaving, is this the first domino in what could be a changing paradigm, maybe in just baseball, but maybe sports specifically?
That's certainly possible. Because and you guys, they are the second team, right? The Cubs are the darlings of Chicago, and yes, I think it's something that White Sox fans have struggled with forever. Sort of being the second team, and I'm sure that the Jets feel the same way. The Mets probably feel the same way, and the Chargers certainly feel that way in Los Angeles, I would imagine, with the Rams. So yeah, maybe so, but I mean, you got to think there's a brand new stadium. It's one single stadium that they're sharing in Los Angeles. There's a lot that would have to happen for the Chargers to be able to move out of there and build a new stadium elsewhere. Obviously, the Sox already have a stadium now. It's an aging ballpark. It's one of what I call like the newer old ballparks, right? It was I think they built that sometime in the late '80s maybe, and it's been renovated a time or two, and they've literally played baseball like at that spot for like 100 years. It's not like, I mean, it's literally that they just tore the old park down and built the other one damn near right on top of it. And then, the Mets, they just built a new stadium not too long ago. And I think the Mets could survive. New York, I think, is fine. I think they can handle it. But you're right. Chicago's in an interesting situation, and especially when you have growing markets like Nashville out there, ready, ripe, and ready, man, for a major league team, or Charlotte, or some of those other places I think we've talked about before. It'll be interesting to see. And then we mentioned the Bears. There's a lot of talk going on about the Bears moving. They bought some land at the old Arlington racetrack out in the west suburbs, and I think they have visions of turning it into sort of a and you're seeing this more and more, especially with baseball stadiums, like they did it in Atlanta with Truist Park, where it's a whole complex, right, with shopping and bars and hotels. It's almost an amusement park around the stadium, and obviously just a total moneymaker as a whole. And so there's talk about them building a new stadium out there. The city wants to renovate and put a roof on Soldier Field as it exists, just in an act of desperation, I think, to keep the team downtown. But there's hardly the parking there's terrible. I mean, it's all the way down on the lake, so it's not super easy to get in and out of. The stadium itself, I mean, it's kind of landlocked as far as its footprint, and I just don't know there's a lot of flexibility to do much with it to make it what they would want it to be. And then you have the added aspect of whatever happens, it's going to have to be taxpayer funded. And it's just there seems to be a huge push, and maybe I'm just more aware of it now than I've ever been, but it seems like taxpayers are less and less willing for their tax dollars to go towards building stadiums for these billionaire owners and their franchises.
That last part is the real important part here because we've seen a ton of publicly funded stadiums, and a vast majority don't get the results that come with it. And it's why Oakland leaving for Las Vegas, and they want to have that be publicly funded by the people of Las Vegas. Here's the thing, though. When you have a publicly funded stadium, that stuff comes out of our pocket in other ways, too. In order to make up for it, it comes out in other places where we get taxed in other places and it funnels through. Taxes are just part of the gig in this country. Like, we have to pay taxes, but I don't think people realize just how much crooked accounting takes place in order for like taxes to go somewhere. Like, they built casinos in Maryland over here, and it's supposed to go to the general fund. Well, what the hell is that? Like, where does that money go? I feel like it lines pockets of politicians or something like that. So in this case, I think what's going to happen, and to go back to my point earlier about these cities with two franchises, I think Chicago is teetering on not having it because, and take no offense to this Chicago, but I don't think Chicago is a New York or an LA in terms of the notoriety and ability to make money that those two cities have. And I think that's why they moved two franchises to LA. I don't think you're ever going to see the Jets or Giants or Mets or Yankees leave. Certainly not the Yankees, but I think you get my point. Is I think New York and LA are just mainstays in terms of even international notoriety. And as much as I love Chicago, I don't think that it's that. And I think if the White Sox want to leave for Nashville, which right now is the up and coming city, man, that shit's going to happen because Nashville is trying to build a publicly funded stadium for the Titans just so that they can host a Super Bowl. So that's all that this is about. And if Soldier Field is not going to be the solution and they build out in the suburbs, they're going to do so with exactly what you said in mind: money and Super Bowls and notoriety. And if they build a dome stadium in Chicago, they're going to get a Super Bowl. They're going to. And that's going to make the city richer. It's going to make the franchise richer. And the only people it's not going to make richer are the fans.
No, absolutely. And I don't know if there's certain parts of the country it's harder to push this shit through that, if maybe Chicago, like Bears fans, I would associate Bears fans as being like very blue collar type people, same with like Cleveland, even like the people of probably a lot of Oakland A's fans, right? I know that's in tech country and stuff, but I mean, I would say that maybe people that are actually Oakland A's fans, kind of, your blue collar average Joe, that uh, doesn't want their money to go to something like that. I could see there being more willingness in some of the LAs and New Yorks of the world, and it'll be at the end of the day, though, man. It seems that more often than not, these franchises, these leagues usually get their way. So because what do you do, right? What do you do as a as a taxpayer, you could say, well, you need to vote in different local officials. But it's only a matter of time before whoever you vote in and places someone else is getting their pockets lined to play the game. And I don't know, man. I'd rather just, I guess, be along for the ride. Just we'll just wander through life, blissfully ignorant to how bad we're getting jobbed on some of this stuff, and enjoy these beautiful cathedrals that we call sports stadiums that are popping up all around the country.
If you want to know that what you're saying is true, Stan Kroenke, owner of the LA Rams, is still paying millions of dollars to the city of St. Louis for screwing them over however many years ago. So these franchises are going to get their way no matter what. But as you said, put the blinders on and let's just get to watching some sports.